this one, the way that this video sounds, or if you'd like me to return to my old video style with a different set of recording settings. But with that out of the way, today I'd like to share with you what I recently purchased from my local comic book store. In a previous video, I mentioned that I want to get back into physical media. So this is part of that effort. This was mostly just a test run, I guess you could say. I've never been there before, and I just wanted to see what it was like. So I spent about $20. Not the amount of money that I spend at the comic book shop is important or anything, but starting off, this is Dark Crisis number 7. I know it says Dark Crisis on Infinite Earths. Originally, it was just Dark Crisis. They renamed it, probably because of what a failure it was. Let me tell you, I have read Dark Crisis before. Dark Crisis, I'm going to be honest, not a big fan of Dark Crisis. And you may be saying, well, why are you buying a book that you weren't a super fan of? It's Nightwing. Nightwing's right there on the front. You can see it. I love Nightwing. Dick Grayson might be my favorite DC Comics character. I'm a huge fan. We'll get to other DC characters that I am a big fan of later. But I love Dick Grayson. He has a pretty major role in this story, and that's why I picked this up. And as you can see there, it was $1. So that's why I picked this up. They had the other Dark Crisis books there as well. I saw 2, I saw 3, I saw 4, and I saw 5. I didn't see 1 or 6. So I could have got the whole Dark Crisis event if I wanted to, but Dark Crisis just really isn't worth it, in my opinion. When I read through it the first time, it was really just such a nothing burger. But it is my boy Nightwing on the front cover there, so I felt I had to pick that up. And then the next one, this is another tie-in comic to one of DC's recent events. This is a tie-in to Dark Knight's Death Metal, not to be confused with Dark Knight's Dark Metal. That is a different thing. And this is a Lobo. This is a Lobo comic. Lobo is another one of those characters that I just really, really like. I think Lobo's really cool. I think Lobo is very fun. I can't remember what his race is, but he's the last of his race. Runs around the galaxy. He's a bounty hunter. He's kind of an anti-hero kind of guy. So Lobo is really cool. I assume this might be, I don't know much about this comic specifically, other than it's clearly a death metal tie-in. But I assume that because it has the triple X there in the extreme there on the title, I assume this might be more of like a red band comic, more of a gorier kind of thing. I don't know if the rating is on. Oh, there's a rating actually down here on the bar there. It says ages 13 and up, so maybe it's not as explicit as I thought it was just from the title, but it is Lobo. So that's why I picked this one up. As you can see, I haven't opened any of these yet. I literally just got back from the comic store like 20 minutes before I recorded this, so that is the Lobo comic. The next one, I was a bit surprised to see actually. So Horizon Zero Dawn. I don't know if I've talked about it on this channel before or not, but Horizon Zero Dawn is one of my favorite video games of all time. I love Horizon Zero Dawn. Absolutely incredible game. I really need to go back and replay it. And I was thinking about picking up the remastered edition that I saw on sale on Steam just the other day for the spring sale, and I sort of let it slip my mind and didn't pick it up. But the next time it's on sale, I think I will pick that up and replay the game. But Horizon Zero Dawn is just a phenomenal game. I cannot sing its praises enough. I haven't played the sequel yet. I haven't played Forbidden West. I've heard that it's not as good as the original Zero Dawn. I can't say definitively, of course, if that is the case or not, because I haven't played it. But I saw this in the bargain bin. They had like this big bucket of comics. Well, it was a box really, but just boxes and boxes boxes and boxes of comics. And I was sifting through there with my grubby little hands, and this popped out, and it just, was right there in my face. I was looking for, I was looking for anything Secret Wars or Marvel Zombies or anything like that. Mostly event comics, and not that I expect event comics to really show up in the bargain bin, but Dark Crisis was there. But anyway, I wasn't really expecting much from that, but this just popped up, and I love Horizon, and I don't know anything about this. I don't know anything about Titan Comics. Never heard of them before, so I don't know what this entails. This will probably be the one I crack open first. In all honesty, I'll rip this right open and see what this is all about, because I do love the Horizon games. Like I just, they're incredible. I love Horizon. So this I will very likely open first and give it a good read through. But yeah, so that's that one. The next one is the Sins of Sinister book number 1. I don't know if this is a tie-in or if it's an event or what it is. I know it's connected to the House and Powers of X, and then the I don't remember the X-Men book that came out during the Krakoa era. I think Hickman was writing that. But this is connected to that era of the X-Men comics when they were on Krakoa. That much I do remember. And I remember seeing the lead up to it in some of the comics that I was reading at the time. That was talking about the Sins of Sinister book and whatnot. But this was also in the bargain bucket, so I said, screw it. It's a number 1. It might not be very good. I don't know anything about the Sins of Sinister. I haven't read it, but I am a big fan of this era of the X-Men, the Krakoa era of the X-Men. Huge fan of that work. So that's why I picked it up, and I just said, it can't be bad, right? Surely it can't be all that bad. So this might be the next one I open up and read through after the Horizon book. But that was another one. And then getting on to some of the bigger purchases. And by bigger, I mean like $3-4. This is Jonathan Hickman's Avengers number 1. Now, when I got into comics for the first time, it was around 2015, 2014. During the Secret Wars era of Marvel was really when I got into comics. And I did that because I had a friend of mine in high school who was reading comics pretty regularly. He would go down to the comic store every week. This was a different comic store that I believe has closed down since then, but he would go to the comic store every week. He would pick up new releases. He actually had an older brother that worked there as well, so he got an employee discount. But he would share them with me after he had finished reading them, so I would be, a week behind on whatever he was reading. So it was around that time that I got into comics, and I was a huge fan of Jonathan Hickman's Avengers and New Avengers. So this is Hickman's Avengers number 1, and then right there it is. So I picked up Avengers and New Avengers. This one obviously is a little roughness around the edges there, but that's no big deal to me at least. So Jonathan Hickman's Avengers and New Avengers. This of course is also the prelude to Secret Wars. This is the series that leads up to Secret Wars. And it has some of my favorite stories from Marvel in it. Specifically, Time Runs Out. Now, I was unable to find any of the Time Runs Out books. I would have picked them up if I did, but I think I'm gonna go more regularly. I'm gonna hit up that comic shop, and I'm just gonna, I could ask them, right? And that maybe that's the more sound thing to do, right? Is just to go up and ask, and hey, do you have these books or whatever? But for the time being, I kind of like the thrill of just going and finding things for myself. Just like I like the surprise of it, especially digging through the bargain bins and trying to find specific books that way. A lot of fun. I wouldn't have is Avengers #1 by Jonathan Hickman. It's gonna take me quite a while to get to the whole collection. Obviously, I could buy like an omnibus or whatnot, but I think it's kind of cool to have the single issue of the comic, at least the #1, right? So Avengers and New Avengers by Jonathan Hickman. The reading order gets a little weird because you have to alternate, one after the other in a specific part of the story. I don't remember where that exactly happens. I don't think it's right here. I don't think it goes Avengers #1, New Avengers #1, Avengers #2, New Avengers #2. I think that happens later on in like 14, 15, 16 range. I think it's been a while since I've read them. I need to go back through and do that. But I am more than happy to just have these physically now because these are two books that personally are very important to me in my journey into comics and how I got into comics and reading them and sort of how I got into Marvel, really. Like when I was a kid, I would watch the animated Spider-Man show on Disney XD. I would watch that every weekend, but I wasn't really reading the comics. I didn't start reading the comics until much, much later in life, but I am very glad to now have these in my collection that hopefully will include more of them in the future. Next up, we have Thor #700. This is quite possibly my favorite comic run ever. Is Jason Aaron's run on Thor. Now, this isn't obviously this isn't Thor #1, right? By Jason Aaron. Again, I could probably get an omnibus of this story, and maybe one day I will. But for the time being, this is just Thor #700. This is easily my favorite run of probably just ever. I love this story, the comic. Jason Aaron's Thor is truly, truly spectacular stuff, and this is also Thor #700. This is the 700th Thor comic that ever came out. This is a 50-page, it says right here in nice, spectacular little cutout, 50-page Asgardian epic as chronicled by Jason Aaron, Russell Dauterman, Walt Simonson, Daniel Acuna, James Herron, Becky Cloonan, Das Pastores, I don't know how to say some of these names, Chris Burnham, Andrew McLean, Jill Thompson, Mike Del Mundo, Oliver Capiel, Matthew Wilson, Dave Stewart, and Ive Sforkina. I apologize if I've gotten a lot of those wrong, and I probably have. But this is not just Jason Aaron, as it says. Walt Simonson's in here too. There are like little tales being told throughout this book that are written by some of these other writers who have worked on Thor in the past. Walt Simonson, of course, very, very famous for doing Thor back in the 80s. I believe it was the 70s or 80s when Walt Simonson took over the Thor books. But Thor #700. This is, of course, when Jane Foster takes up the mantle of Thor. But in the book right behind it, this is Jason Aaron's Thor as well. This is the second time that Jason Aaron took up Thor, because he took up Thor, and then Thor became unworthy after Original Sin, and then Jane Foster became Thor, and then Thor became Thor again, and this is the after the handoff and the death of Jane Foster, and then Thor became worthy again. And this, I am so glad to have this, because this has one of my favorite characters in it ever right here on the front cover, Old Man Phoenix, which is, of course, Old Man Logan with the Phoenix Force. Incredible stuff. There's another sort of tie-in book to this. I can't remember if it was a Jason Aaron book that he actually wrote or someone else wrote it to tie into Jason Aaron's run, but it's I can't think of the name of it. I think it was All Father Thor or something similar, something along that line, where it's just the tale of Thor when he's super old at the end of the universe, and it's really, really good. I need to go back and find exactly what it's called. It might just be another towards the end, and I think that might be true, but I absolutely love that part of the story where he's just super old and it shows the end of time, and Loki's there, and Gore the God Butcher, and all this other good stuff. I'm gonna spend a lot of money in the future picking up this series, probably getting an omnibus. But you know, I need to get God Bomb. I need to get the precursor to God Bomb. I need to get the after of God Bomb. I just love Jason Aaron's Thor so much, and because I am such a huge fan of Jason Aaron's Thor, it's also why I utterly detest Thor: Love and Thunder. Absolutely terrible movie. What a waste of a story. What a waste of Christian Bale. Just one of the worst, genuinely one of the worst movies I've ever seen. Hate that movie, but anyway, I know this was a bit of a shorter video today. I know you have to forgive me for that, but this was my first run going to my local comic shop, and hopefully it won't be the last, because I really do want to get back into physical media. I know it can be pretty spendy to do it this way, but you know, as I've said in the past, I want to take control back over my media, the things that I consume, and you know, I just want there to be less of a reliance on digital things. Like, I want to actually own the media I consume, and have the ability to go back and reread it whenever I want, right? I don't want it to be subject to somebody just removing it online, right? So that is what I'm going to do going forward. Physical media, you know, backing up stuff to local hard drives, that kind of thing. That is my future plans. So thank you very much for watching this video. I hope you did enjoy. And as always, I hope to speak with you again soon. Goodbye for now.